Have you ever predicted the end of a relationship and watched it unfold exactly as you saw it? Not because you wanted it to, not because you sabotaged it, but because you felt the pattern before anyone else was willing to admit it existed. And here's the uncomfortable question. If you're so good at seeing what others can't, why does it make your life harder, not easier? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand something most intuitive people never realize, and it will completely change how you relate to your gift. The reframe. You've probably been told you're intuitive, deep, insightful, maybe even psychic, but that's not what's happening. What you're experiencing is a dominant perceptual function described by Carl Jung as introverted intuition. And it's not mystical, it's structural. You don't primarily see events, you see trajectories. You don't track behavior, you track inevitabilities. Most people experience reality as a sequence. You experience it as a convergence. That's the difference, and it's also the beginning of the problem. Why you feel like an outsider. Here's something no one tells intuitive types. You are not just observing people, you are observing the psychological story they are unconsciously acting out. When your friend says, "It's complicated," you're not hearing the words, you're seeing the third act. You're seeing the unresolved father wound. You're seeing the attachment cycle. You're seeing the collapse point. And when you speak it out loud, they don't feel understood, they feel exposed. That's why they say, "You're overthinking. You're reading too much into it." Not everything is that deep. But here's the truth. It is that deep. They just don't live at that layer. And here's the part that stings. The more accurate you are, the more socially dangerous you become. The uncomfortable truth. Your gift isolates you not because it's rare, but because it disrupts comforting illusions. Human beings maintain psychological stability through selective blindness. We all do it. Denial protects continuity. Rationalization protects identity. Projection protects ego. When you intuitively expose a pattern someone is not ready to see, you threaten their internal equilibrium. And equilibrium always defends itself. That defense can look like dismissal, mockery, subtle distancing, or labeling you intense. So what do you learn? You learn to stay quiet. You learn to soften insights. You learn to doubt yourself. And this is where the curse begins, the hidden cost of seeing patterns. Let's go deeper. Introverted intuition doesn't just see patterns in others, it sees potential futures, constantly. Every conversation forks into possibilities. Every decision radiates consequence trees. Your mind is not quiet. It's simulating, always. And this creates a silent exhaustion, because you are living 5 outcomes ahead of everyone else. Now here's the paradox. You see clearly, but you cannot control what you see. You detect emotional shifts before they're acknowledged. You sense relational decay before conflict surfaces. You notice motivational cracks before behavior changes. And most of the time, you're forced to wait. Waiting is the true burden. Watching a slow collapse you already understand. This is why many intuitive types oscillate between calm detachment and sudden intensity. You've already processed the ending. Others are still in denial. The psychological trap. But now we need to confront something uncomfortable. Not every pattern you see is objective truth. Some of it is projection. And this is where intuitive types can quietly derail themselves. When your dominant function becomes too strong, it stops checking reality. You move from, "I sense something is off," to, "I know exactly what this is," without verifying. Jung warned about this. When intuition is unchecked by grounded perception, it becomes self-sealing. You start living inside symbolic interpretations, and slowly, subtly, you detach from what is actually happening.
This is where anxiety creeps in. This is where paranoia can whisper. This is where relationships become strained, because no one enjoys feeling psychoanalyzed in casual conversation. So now you're stuck between two fears. If I speak, I disrupt harmony. If I stay silent, I betray my perception. That tension is the real curse, and we haven't even reached the deepest layer yet. The inferior function problem. Jung described something critical. When one psychological function dominates, its opposite weakens. For strong intuitive types, sensory grounding is often underdeveloped, which means you can map the emotional future of a company but forget to answer emails. You can understand someone's childhood trauma but ignore your own physical stress. You can predict relational collapse, but neglect daily maintenance in your own life. Eventually, reality demands attention: bills, health, deadlines, physical space. And when neglected long enough, the inferior function erupts. Sudden anxiety about money, obsessive cleaning, health paranoia, overcorrection into rigid control. This is not failure, it's compensation. Your psyche demanding balance. The insight shift. So here's the shift no one tells intuitive people. Your gift is not pattern recognition. Your gift is pattern translation. Seeing is not enough. If you cannot communicate insight without destabilizing others, it becomes social friction. If you cannot ground vision into structure, it becomes fantasy. If you cannot tolerate uncertainty while waiting for events to unfold, it becomes anxiety. Integration is not suppressing intuition, it's pairing it with reality. That means testing insights gently instead of declaring them, asking questions instead of delivering conclusions, observing before interpreting, and most importantly, staying anchored in the present moment while your mind explores the future. Practical integration, without cliché. Let's make this real. Instead of saying, "This relationship won't work," try, "What makes you feel secure in this dynamic?" Instead of, "This project is going to fail," try, "What risks do you see that we haven't addressed?" Translation invites collaboration. Declaration triggers defense. Second, build sensory rituals, not productivity hacks. Sensory rituals. Cold water on your hands, cooking from scratch, walking without headphones. These pull intuition back into the body. Without that grounding, insight becomes abstraction. Third, delay interpretation. When you feel a lightning bolt insight, pause. Ask, what evidence supports this? What contradicts it? Is this perception or projection? That single pause prevents months of misalignment. Returning to the opening question. At the beginning of this video, I asked, if you're so good at seeing what others can't, why does it make your life harder? Here's the answer. Because vision without integration creates distance, but vision with integration creates leadership. The world does not need more silent observers. It needs grounded translators, not prophets shouting from mountains, but stabilizers in rooms. The goal is not to see less. The goal is to destabilize less. And when you master that balance, your insight stops feeling like a burden. It becomes influence. Quiet, precise, unshakable. And suddenly, you're not the outsider anymore. You're the anchor.